Hey everyone, get ready to have your minds blown because today we're diving into the Safeguard, the Silo episode that flipped everything upside down. Ever felt like you're living a lie? Then grab some popcorn because we're about to jump into the chaos and figure out how everything unfolded. The struggle is real. Juliet is racing against time in Silo 70, while Lucas in 18 is about to find a ticking time bomb. And the decisions? They change everything. We're going to watch this. Explosive, dynamic firsthand in Silo. Season 2 is just wild. Everything blows up. Everyone is questioning what is going on, and it's about to explode. Ready for the season's big twist. So let's jump into our breakdown. Let's start making sense of all of this. In the Safeguard, we follow Julieta's chaotic path in Silo 17, desperately trying to figure out a mysterious past and understand how she's perceived by the current inhabitants there, like Ear, Rick, and Audrey, for example. The mess is so massive there, it's like everyone just completely forgot that there's an entire world beyond that steel bunker. We see this story through the eyes of Ear, Rick, and Audrey, the children of rebellion. Imagine being born in a destroyed place and grow up with the story that your parents died in a brutal conflict. Audrey is the fierce leader, restless, with little to no patience. Rick's the peacemaker, but also stirs the pot sometimes. And then you have Ear, who appears as though she is the least important, while is indeed crucial for the coming story, as many simply overlook her. The trio have a unique perspective, all with deep-rooted hatred towards Solo, and all believe in the lies spread by other power figures of Silo 17. Why all the hatred, right? Everyone assumes he killed their parents. This perspective makes it easier to grasp how our Juliet enters the new scenario. And it sets up the basis of our central protagonist and why the local gangs perceive her with doubt at all moments. In this dark scenario, Juliet takes on the challenge to impose a little bit of peace. How? That's her purpose. Obtain the coffer, a symbol to them all, a target for all that need or pretend to. George also becomes another key element and is still important to move on this new episode. A past symbol to guide Juliet's actions. Weird codes, mystery messages. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Well, Juliet once more uses her analytical gifts to connect every single loose end. A big secret revealed, not just about the characters from past moments, but something very central in the main story. This connection has deep impacts to our Juliet. The more things that make her mind work and move towards her main objective is the best way for George to keep her alive. That, or was he the real trigger for it all along? All is open for speculation for Juliet, as it has been for us. Through the clues George left, we begin to connect all the pieces just like a puzzle. The main plot twist: Solo is not someone's name, but indeed a position, raw title in Silo, another secret in this cruel game. In fact, we finally see who the poor man was in his true and core nature. A guy just living life, but like the great majority. An average Joe with a very deep and dark secret. Turns out he's the son of Russell Conroy, the old IT guy. Juliet is not only the solver for every lock and clue, she's the perfect puzzle solver in this episode. Her gifts and intellect, like the ones from us in our everyday lives, can connect the many events of our existences and the reasons for everything in it. By this amazing move, she understands it. Everything that was always there now has more reason to finally take place and make sense in every level. And even knowing the full story, she starts acting from her huge heart. She begins to sympathize with Solo. His sorrowful past was all a big act to keep a sad secret. Guilt. And in all of this, Juliet decides to fight for who she always considered a monster, the misunderstood Solo. Their path is about to be reunited by similar past events. Both had people to blame, one rightly and the other for no apparent reason. A new connection with empathy for both. Something was bound to happen. Speaking of Solo, my friend, brace yourselves for this, since we will truly understand him now. Prepare your heartstrings as we fully grasp his nature. What makes this man so special? His madness makes him look special or bizarre, depending on each individual point of view. We're heading to the very soul to unravel why he is a man of few words. It becomes crystal clear he's hiding his broken soul behind games. An extra way to hide a whole painful past. That would later be part of our understanding. We're going back in time where Solo is now Jimmy Conroy, a normal boy, 12 years old, that faced the horrors of a rebellion. On that day, his entire life turned upside down, forever traumatizing a sweet little puppy into a mad wolf, a true product of the oppression that was brought upon Silo for the ages. Past events play out like puzzle pieces to unveil that most of his current state of mind and existence are products of his choice of obedience towards an act he, as a child, was supposed to take. He lived imprisoned by his decisions, by that particular date when nothing would be the same. Was that his curse? His burden to carry every moment of his tormented adult life in a confined cage made with self-loathing? What do we make of it? The answers are there with Jimmy and in the viewer's own perceptions. And there we see what it means to build his character, like a proper TV show with such layers. Why did he make a career around the role Shadow, hiding under a completely bizarre perspective as someone other than what was obvious, connecting to old technologies? From his father, all made by this kid who's been trying to cope and doing it his own unique way. There he meets Juliet, his opposite yet a soulmate that connected all the elements they had in common. Music, elephants, etc. A complex mix of child rebellion with extreme discipline, obedience. He was living as a child because he always stayed. A child that was forced to grow into an adult way too early, not wanting to become the responsible for a duty that in fact wasn't. With her actions, Juliet helped our dear Solo reach the conclusion of an old chapter to start his next in the world, with nothing less than his whole new beginning when all those questions get to meet us viewers with his most vulnerable moments. By showing himself completely to another, Solo stops being Solo. Jimmy enters to stay. Hopefully, he can finally try again and become once more truly a real person that can love without the burden of all the old lies. The changes were obvious to see. The broken child, traumatized and scared of the world. In that moment in the past, start a true transformation when his perception of not being guilty begins to settle. All that with actions so humane and genuine that could soften the hardest and most broken soul. So much growth in so little time. That is one of the wonders that only humans have and show in all their most true forms. The only condition, a new perception, as a whole new life and view are just as different and distinct. To find real redemption in suffering by means of an act that brings something out of the gloom to someone. A path, like always, for the great and more troubled characters of Silo. A true catharsis that will affect their lives beyond comprehension. Moving on, the scenario in Silo 18 is quite different, but the heat is just as tense as ever. Lucas is on a personal mission to dismantle a system, one code at a time. The nerdy IT guy with some kind of detective role for us, the audience. A message from the past, left by a dead former bad guy, Salvador Quinn, makes it seem almost like a spy film. This information has many secrets about everything. It appears a clear reflection of how cold and calculative. All the secrets inside this world have been way longer than just what has recently come out for our eyes. The horrors do have more depth than we all could assume at first. All in an enclosed ecosystem, all very sick and wrong at its core. The notebook and old data have started to trigger a new and darker phase for all and everything. And for our beloved character Lucas is all that can help to connect new elements of a major story with more layers. Salvador's message explodes into a whole different level, making everything sound far too wrong for any logical reasoning. There's not only one Silo, but rather more than 50. A cruel plot twist that could lead every single individual to question if there was any real objective or truth behind the current structures that are used to enslave the mass of that society. Who is to blame and to be punished? This new information opens for a huge sea of questions and even more anger within Lucas as starts looking into his future steps more wisely. And now enter Mary Meadows into our equation, the ex-judge who went down a rabbit hole with excessive alcohol. It is known that she had more knowledge of it all. So Lucas's new finds make you wonder, what the hell led her to her drinking problem? Quinn's revelation sparked the urge to finally understand all about that character. That until then was seen like the crazy alcoholic that lived at the margins. This information also reinforces the thesis about those who want more from it all. They need to challenge every aspect and structure. Is it about freedom, breaking away, or a way of finally facing one's inner fears and truths that we need to accept and make sense? The answers will follow. All these new findings made Lucas act in some desperate ways. He must see if it all is truly real or if his logic has something broken. Our IT nerdy kid takes a deep plunge in the deepest and supposedly most restricted place, going all the way to where supposed a never-ending and lethal lake existed at Silo 18's bottom of the silo. He finally reaches it. All the information and science we were led to believe was wrong. He discovers a secret tunnel, so easy to access. All it takes is not being afraid, just to believe a little in all those questions that makes him lose sleep every day, like the great majority of other characters we follow and watch since Silo began. When he gets to where the tunnel takes him to, another character makes himself heard. The so-called algorithm, a mysterious entity, calls Lucas out loud in what looks like an interrogation scene from any big film or book. This whole plot twist starts to set many alarms. And once the entity gives a message that clearly points that everyone in authority of every silo had the instructions. But what were those instructions for real? How much evil lies beyond this? Why so much hate? Will our protagonist do as told and stay silent in order not to compromise anyone in his path of truth? This new algorithm also says that only 3 other beings have walked in that pathway. And yes, our old friend and older criticized Mary was also one of those individuals. All along, she was more complex and smarter than our judgmental point of view led us to believe. A broken woman who took too much upon her. After many warning, the system hints at this huge game. Was Mary a target? Just someone they discarded? Because of a great mistake she did that ended up costing all of them so much pain and a hard path with all of her demons? How does a judge decide to give up her great position in society for such a sad ending? Just as they say in Silo, the ones who live on the margins should stay there. Lucas and Mary had this great choice at some point in time, just like Juliet too. What happens next is a mystery for the ages. How they move from one side to another. We have it in our own interpretations, a personal interpretation. That I suggest. For us all, the system shows us the right choices. But should we, as always, trust all the easy solutions? All the fear, questions, doubts start running fast at this time. With this info bomb, a big question comes to him. Should I reveal the truth or simply remain silent and go along with the current cruel games they use? And the feeling, as always in Silo, will forever resonate among everyone, just like how it affects the viewer and the audience if we get too attached to the material. Our little nerdy computer whiz seems at crossroads on one thing only: follow every rule ever, or be the first to decide to go all in to reveal how everything has been a big and huge farce up until this exact second. Lucas acts different. Just like Juliet, his bravery was greater than anything. Those chosen ones made an unexpected move. One step towards revolution, a clear reflection of how human connections always find a unique way to show, no matter the circumstance, that not everything was or ever will be truly and fully hopeless. This is a crucial moment to make the right decision. While all that is happening, people upstairs at Silo 18 are having quite the problem. There is an escalating rebellion that threatens the old guard. The main point of tension, of course, is the beloved Sheriff Paul, the perfect puppet who one day, just like everyone else, when something tragic happened, simply sees it all falling apart and finally realizes what has happened. He's been following orders without any questions, not even in his internal conversations, for ages. Why would one man of great value and good heart take that decision that may ultimately risk everyone in there with the consequences? His crisis will soon